we mentioned recording in progress. We mentioned where I'm from, so we have that on the first page. And if you don't already have a link to the syllabus challenge, I'm going to give it to you in a few minutes. But I want to set up where I can see more of you. So hold on one second, because I can only see like 4 people. I know I can't see 90 at once, but still I can make this a little better, right? Okay. Okay, that's a little. All right. Oh, logistics. Let me just say, I know that now the reaction in Zoom at the bottom, you can put raise hand. I would say don't use that because I will not see it. Because what it does, it just puts a hand in your corner, whichever corner. And I will probably be looking at my slides in the chat. So if you want to post questions in the chat as we go, you certainly can. What we'll probably do is come to those when we have our open discussions for the little sections we're going to do. And you obviously are happy to use your reactions whenever you feel like it, except raise hand, I'm probably not going to see it. So just fair warning on that. Okay, so can you see this slide? Let's do some practicing. We can do reactions or thumbs up. Okay, now here's the other question. Where did my reactions go? Okay, there we go. So thumbs up. Okay. All right, so jumping in. Let me see how I can get this to play nice for me here. What I want to start out with is, first of all, practicing a skill set in Zoom that I want you all to have if you don't already have it. And it's called annotate. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this blank screen, and all of us are going to type the answer to this question. It can just be 1 word. It can be 3 words. It can be extremely aspirational. It can be very detailed into one of your learning goals in your course. But what do we want for our students? It doesn't have to be related to what we're talking about today. Just in general, what do we want for our students? So if you don't know how to find this tool, at the very top center of your Zoom, there's going to be a little view options with an arrow beside it. View options, hit the arrow, and then drop down to annotate, the word annotate. That will bring up a bar of tools for you. Turn it on here. Here we go. So far, so good. View options, annotate, bar shows up, and then you can hit the little T for text, which means you can type. Try to move your spots around because we're going to end up seeing that we type all over each other. That's okay too. Okay, people are figuring it out. If this presents a challenge and you want to type your answer in the chat because you can't make this work, use the chat. Love it. We like to give students options, right? So we're going to give ourselves options so that technology doesn't get in our way. All right, so I'm seeing some fun stuff. What do we want for our students? Success, confidence, feel empowered. To think, I think that was probably going to be critically, but maybe it got hit before you entered it, right? Well-being, confidence, critical thinking, feel they belong, growth, support and excitement, real world readiness. Say that 5 times fast. Feeling supported, skill development, excitement, growth, engagement, problem-solving skills, personal, reach their goals, application, advocacy, personal growth and lifelong learning, room to think to be decent people, haha. Rest, feel safe, growth, big, huge engagement on there. Okay, open-mindedness, success, love learning. What did I miss? Invest in their own education and think critically. Empowerment, get excited, belonging, be resourceful, supportive, be involved. Well, this is not a lack of options. This is great. Acceptance, develop a passion for a topic. Okay, so much more. You can start to see, by the way, you can now click over to the word stamp in your annotation bar, and you can upvote things if you'd like. So you can say, yes, I agree, empowered. All right, and you may see things here that overlap with what you think as well. Oh, and in the chat, good times. Safety and challenge, think critically, career path, so figuring out the career path. Be prepared for the future, opportunities, and we're upvoting each other like crazy. I love that. All right, so there's a reason why we are, as a collective in the community, we have some common goals, right, of what we want for our students and what is success for them, right? You have pretty much defined student success for yourselves here. And what we're going to do today is really about, are there little steps? Some of the things in the syllabus challenge are bigger steps, but are there little steps and kind of tips and tricks of ways we can cue to students that we want them to succeed, each and every one of them, right? And one of the challenges we face is not all students come to us with the same previous experience with educators, okay? And so we can't assume that we are going to be perceived by them as always wanting them, to all be there and belong. So we just have some things we can do though that can cue that. They're going to be future leaders. Yes, I love that, Nick. Okay, so here's another trick. Now you have to show some restraint. I'm going to clear this. Don't be sad. Don't be sad. I'm going to clear this if I can get my screen to allow me to see it. Okay, and now you have to hit the red X and close your annotate, because anytime you click your mouse now, you're going to write on the screen. So close red X. Okay, Daniel. Close with the red X. Okay, got it. Great. Good stuff. All right, so you can see there's a reason why we come together and have some shared values around these things. So before I get into the syllabus challenge a little bit more deeply here, I want to go over what this session is not. I mean, I probably don't have to do this slide, but a lot of times I know people give me feedback. They go to a training around inclusive practices or diversity training or whatever people are calling it, and it is more about making people feel bad, maybe, or they come out of it with a bad experience. So today is not, or maybe this is just, perception too. It's not about blaming you. It's not about shaming you for not knowing and how you're such a bad person for not knowing. There's going to be quite a range in this group among all of us, right? Of people who've had more exposure, less exposure, and it may be that one person's had exposure to one aspect, like one particular marginalized group and what their concerns are, and not another, right? So we have all of that in the same room. Are equity and inclusion really relevant in my specific course? This talk is not about that because the answer is yes. So we're not going to actually address that question because the answer is yes. You must do all the things now and perfectly. It's a long, when you open the syllabus challenge, it's 8 Google slides of ideas of things you can do. No one expects you to do all of them. No one expects you to do even half of them probably. So just don't be overwhelmed by it, I guess is my point. And it's all a journey, and that's great. There'll be some things you can come back to another time. Saying I value diversity is enough. My students know I care. As I mentioned in the previous comments, they don't always know that you care. And so our perception of how we're conveying that may not translate, right? And that's just about miscommunication, but we can do some things to fix that. I hope you feel guilty, blame and shame and guilt, right? We're not doing that. And giving up your academic rigor for equity and inclusion, that's not what this talk is either. You don't actually have to give up rigor to be inclusive. So that's a myth that's out there. And the exact answers for how to adapt to your course. Clearly, I'm not an expert in all of your disciplines or in the wonderful courses that you have developed over the years and with such care. So that is going to be not what I can do, but I can give you many ideas that can be adapted into pretty much any kind of course, okay? So with that, I'll tell you what the session is. How about that? This is our focus. What changes can we make to reduce equity gaps in student success? We know they exist. What can we do? There are some things we know from research that can actually help close some of those gaps and increase sense of belonging, right? How can our pedagogies develop privileged students as strong allies? One of my pet peeves about inclusive pedagogy discussions is that we kind of focus on, I'm guilty of it too, that we're being inclusive so that students from marginalized backgrounds stay with us, right? It's not just for them though. The students in the class that have more access and the systems of our society support them more also need to be learning about these realities, right? And that they're in a system that isn't treating everybody exactly the same. Okay, how can I reduce the cultural mismatch between the learning context, that's us, and our students' home, family, culture, background, okay? So there is a cultural mismatch for many groups, okay? And I don't know if I mentioned this later, so I'll mention it now, but I'm a first generation student from a working class family. Major cultural mismatch between what I grew up with and higher education and assumptions that are made about how you operate. So there's ways we can reduce that mismatch. How can we embrace humility? Ooh, this one's for the educators. How can we embrace humility in service to inclusive and social justice pedagogy? The book we have that just came out about teaching social justice, our first chapter I wrote about pedagogical humility. So this is my phrase of the time. And higher education sort of supports us, encourages us to put off the attitude that we do know. We don't always know. We don't always know how to teach something effectively. We don't always know how to reach all our students effectively. because we weren't taught, right? So that's what we're here to do, to support each other. Okay, so that's just to set the stage. Our goals for today, if you couldn't already make out, to value student success over our own comfort. Some of this might be uncomfortable because we have to learn new things, right? And I totally understand that. We're supporting you, we're supporting each other. We want to challenge ourselves to do better. And it's not just for our students, right? Part of this is also just about creating a different kind of culture in the workplace, that we're all sort of on this mission and journey together. Operate as a community of learners. I mentioned this before. Some of you could run this workshop, no doubt. I do not need to be here. Some of you, this may be newer stuff, and that's totally okay. And I want everybody to feel like this is your space. So we want to be brave and creative and open and reflective and supportive. I'm just asking not very much, right? But these are aspirational things, and we want to focus on taking action. Really, the syllabus challenge toolkit, I'll call it, I guess, is every single line is about an action that you can take. And so again, don't feel overwhelmed by that. And overall, my goal and why I love doing these workshops is to expand the base of faculty allies within your university, but for me, across the board, higher ed in general, okay? So just tiny little goals like that. Okay, that was sarcasm. Okay, is everybody okay? Let's get a reaction. How are we doing? Thumbs, I see thumbs, I see reaction thumbs, real thumbs. Okay, all right. Good stuff. No one's gone yet. That's good. Stick with me. I'm just looking at the chat. We're still on the same stuff, right? All right. What I'm going to do here is 3 sections. And it's going to go like this. We're going to do some examples of like learning goals before you implement some more inclusive language, and then what it would look like after. These aren't perfect or solutions, but they're ideas, okay? Just to get your little juices flowing in the brain a little bit about it. And they may not be your exact courses. I've got things from different disciplines, but of course, I'm not going to be able to cover all of them. But we're going to do little examples to get the brain juices going, and then you're going to talk to each other using that syllabus challenge, and I'll tell you what page to go to and all that. And it's just to, again, dip a toe in the water, see which things might speak to you for a course you're developing for the fall, perhaps, or the summer if you're teaching the summer. So we're going to do course description and goals. So that's our first little section. Examples, talk to each other. Then we're going to do content. So anything in your course that you require students to consume in some way. Textbooks, readings, videos, it could be guest speakers, it could be some essay online you have them read, anything you have them consume. It could be visual stimulation or something like that. So content, okay? And then we'll do examples, talk to each other. And then last, we'll do student learning products, otherwise known as assignments, or ways that you assess their learning, okay? So that could be exams, papers, projects, whatever it may be. And then we'll do examples again. And if we have time, we will then have a small section where I'm just going to talk to you about syllabus policies, because we think about syllabus policies as neutral, and they are not necessarily neutral when it comes to equity issues, because different students read those differently. And in terms of, for example, whether or not they can ask for exceptions to those rules, right? Okay. So enough of me telling you what's going to happen. I should probably just do it, huh? Okay. So we're going to do course description and learning goals. I think I have 3 examples of these. And here's what I want to say first about this. None of the things I'm going to give you that are before, there's nothing wrong with them, right? You may see yourself here. There's nothing wrong with these. This is just about like, what can we tweak to sort of send some cues about inclusive practices? Okay. So I pulled a biology course. These are not from your university. I pulled a biology course example, like this is like a 101 or 102 or something, and or 150, 151. And it just says, I mean, there's tons of learning goals. I just pulled a few. The student will, right? This is probably very typical. Outline the relationships between genes and inheritable traits, you know, biological themes related to the natural world, how scientists learn more about the world around them, changing scientific information. Okay. Absolutely love it so much. What if we wanted to cue in some more inclusivity type stuff, right? Okay, so see, nope. Nope. I can't get to the button that I need, okay. There we go, okay. So as members of this learning community, we will. This is different than saying the student will. Recently, my buddy Regan Gurung had a new study come out about just the warm tone of a syllabus. And that's related to this, but also there's research on using interdependent words in a syllabus, like community and we versus like this abstract student that's distant from the syllabus, right? So even that little change can make a difference in how a student's reading this and feeling connected to it. So learning community, we will outline the relationships between a person's genetic code and traits such as eye color or which hand is dominant. So I put a little note in the gray section here. We're taking out a little bit more of the jargon that they might not have access to yet, and then putting in the end of the sentence a couple of real examples, like, you know, why would I care about inherited traits? What even is that? Well, it's things like, are you right-handed or not, right? So that's just a little tweak, but it's about the same learning goal, right? Relate key biological themes to examples found in the natural world, including your family and community. So this gives not only interdependent language, because they're talking about family and community, those are interdependent language, but you're also giving students the cue that you are going to want them to bring the knowledge they have from their own community and background. And so that's another way to be, you know, giving those positive messages, and that you thought about that. And the last one was about, you know, scientific interpretation, right? Explain how bias and lack of diverse perspectives can negatively influence scientific interpretation. So this is moving a little bit from what the learning goal said into something more specific. So this could actually be an added one if you didn't want to take out the previous one, but we're acknowledging that there's bias in the discipline, right? And it's saying that there's a value when you do include diverse perspectives in interpretation. Okay, so those are just sort of some little tiny things that can happen. Let me give you a couple more. So this would be like a communications class of any sort, okay? Business, cross-cultural communication. We have some of this within psychology sometimes, but so this is the before. Develop your analytical skills in international and cross-cultural communication, okay? Understand the importance of networking among colleagues. And so nothing wrong with them. I'm gonna go a little bit faster here. But what if you actually name things like strength-based perspectives, okay? So apply a strength-based perspective to communication styles and the various communication values of groups, you know, various diverse groups, not just around the world necessarily, but even in the US context, we could talk about strength-based perspectives around communication styles, okay? And that could actually be something that you ask students to bring in from their own backgrounds, right? On the next one, I talked about networking, because networking is a very loaded term for a lot of groups and a lot of people based on their own sort of cultural mismatch. So recognize ways systems may create barriers to networking for traditionally marginalized groups or various cultures. So when we talk about networking, there's a particular assumed culture that says this is how you do networking. Well, if you're not from that group, there can be some challenges there because the systems are set up to value certain ways of being. So that could be something that you bring into the class as part of the discussion. Okay, and I'll do one more, and this is social psychology, but I'm going to show you in the after. It could be for any discipline really, if these kinds of concepts apply to you. So this is from an old syllabus of mine. So this is just a course description, and this is pretty traditional. Social psychology is the study of social context, how it influences behaviors, right? Students will, again, the distant student, not a great way to go. Students will be encouraged to reflect on the application of social psychology to real world problems and incorporate relevance to their own lives. I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh, I'm making it relevant to their lives. They're going to see that I care about that. And then later I went a little deeper on this, pat myself on the back. And this is so I took out social psychology here and just wrote discipline, okay? Because you can kind of think about this course description is now like 2 pages though. So some of you will be like, I don't need to have a 70,000 page syllabus. You do not. However, I thought this was worth it for mine. So as we learn more about various aspects of the discipline, we include focus on how the discipline helps us understand a variety of social issues. So then you can put whatever you want here that is cueing to your students that you're thinking about issues of oppression and power and privilege, or anything you think is, or bias, anything you think is relevant to the course that you can incorporate there. Intersections of identity, for example, even social forces and barriers within social institutions. So some of these would not necessarily apply to the course you're teaching. Some of them would. And then there's also others that aren't listed here that you could put in this section. And again, this is just a cue. If I'm coming in from a group that is, not part of the privileged sort of cultural match of higher education, and I see this on a syllabus, I might think, oh, this professor thinks about these issues. I've got a little bit more leeway, and maybe I can incorporate this in some of my assignments and things I care about. So that's why I converted that to be much more specific. And a couple more things I put here is which theories we were going to be using in the class. Okay. None of these students signed up for social psychology thinking they were going to talk about prejudice at all, really. And this whole class was about social issues. And I wanted to make it clear to them that using these theories is strengthening our discipline, right? So naming the theories and how they strengthen the discipline. And then you'll notice the last bullet says you'll find more details. There's a whole page that, because this is jargon to them. Feminist theory, what? Intersectional theory, no idea. There's a whole page that lists every theory and like the tenets of the theory and what we'll be using to sort of look at social psychology and critique it, okay? And so I wasn't going to assume they knew what any of these words meant. So that's something else to keep in mind. Okay, and actually all this syllabus is on my website, but we can get to that later. Okay. Whew, all right, deep breath. All right, what we're gonna do now, so that's a little before, a little bit of after, just to kind of get, again, wake us up a little bit, but you don't have to remember all of that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the syllabus challenge. So each one of you is gonna open that up, and I'm gonna walk you through that before we go anywhere. And then we're going to go to a particular page and have a little group time, okay? So let's do this together to make sure everybody can get there. So I just put in the chat the live link to the Google Slides for the syllabus challenge. What I want to say is once you open it, you're going to need to make some decisions because you can only view my version, right? So you can either make a copy. So if you're a Google Drive person, you can make a copy into your own Google Drive. If you are not, you could go to File and Download. You could download as a PDF. I think you can download as a PowerPoint, whatever you want to do. So open it up. You can either make a copy into a Google Drive or you can download it. And I want to make sure everybody's okay before we go anywhere else. So you actually have. Or you can just open it up and look at it, but like take notes on paper or take notes in another space like a Word document. You have tons of options here. But the one you originally opened, you can't type on because it's mine. And I need to keep it as a. Okay, anybody need help technology-wise here with finding what we need? I'm flipping through the pictures to find you and see if everybody's. The chat doesn't have anybody saying they can't find it, so I think that means we're okay. All right. Can I get? Let's see. Can I get a celebratory, whatever this party thing is, if you're able to open the syllabus challenge? Party time. Thank you, Katie. Sandra, thank you. All kinds of partying going on. Love it. Okay, great. I didn't give you an option to tell me if there was a problem, but I guess if you had an issue, you'd be in the chat telling me so. All right, I think we're okay. Here's what we're going to do next then. I love that this group is so easily figuring things out. We're going to go into rooms. It's 10 minutes. That sounds like a long time. It won't be. And you're going to go to slide 4. So if you're already inside the syllabus challenge, scroll down to slide 4, because that's where we're focusing on course descriptions and learning goals. Now, if you get in your group and you're like, yeah, we talked about that, you can scroll up and you've got more general things about the syllabus you can look at. Page 2 and 3 are more general things. So feel free to do that. Just don't go forward. Slide 4, and then if you get bored with that, you can go up to slide 2 and 3. Okay. Questions about that? Starting at slide 4. Okay, so Emily, are you okay to do groups of 3 to 4?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to do that right now.
And then just be ready. We want to kind of have a few people give examples when you come back, but not every single group. So don't worry about it.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. I'll do the timer.
So you should all be able to join your rooms.
You tried to put me in a room, but I'm going to stay here.
Okay, right.
Which means now there's a room with just 2 people, but. It didn't automatically just send them, did it?
I think so. I'm hoping.
think they're all having to click individually to join. Yeah.
Let's see the. Yep. Okay, so Mary's my grad assistant, so she's going to hang out with me and you.
Hi.
Henry, and then there's the other me.
Right.
So it looks like, oh, and Luis. I'm going to put Luis into room 1.
3 needs, okay, yeah, they need another person too, you're right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's okay.
Oh, I see, right.
It's fine. 2 people's fine.
And then whichever room has the other me, or my, no, I'm
Oh. That's a good question.
we're gonna put Matt into a room. Did you say room 3 still needs somebody else?
It just had 2, yeah.
Okay. Let's do
There's a
Actually,
few that, oh,
I'm not a good candidate for a room because I don't think I'm going to be able to be in the session the whole time.
Oh, Matt.
it's fine. Either way, it's fine, Matt.
Matt's our executive director of the library. Is that your?
Matt.
All right, so Matt, do you want to hang out here, or do you want to just go and hang out?
I think hanging out here is best for
Okay.
me.
That works. Yeah, there's a few that just have 2, but as long as they have 1 person to talk to, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, I'm looking to see, is there a way to join room 33 and 34? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't, you'd have to like pull them, 2 of them, you'd have to, yeah, teleport. Okay. Okay, any feedback right now on pace? I'm trying to make sure we get to all 3 sections, but
No, I think pace is great because we got started a little bit ahead of schedule, so I think we're great.
right. And I really, when they come back, I'm not going to have this on share, so I'll just stop.
So we have somebody asking for help.
Okay, where are they?
Room 25, Bonnie Canner. She is the chair of the psychology department.
Let's scroll down here to get to it. 25. Okay, I'll be right back.
All right.
Emily, are we in your room?
Okay, where'd you go? I was not going to join a room. Wait.
Oh, because Colleen and I ended up in a room by ourselves. We don't know how.
Because it was randomly done.
Oh, it's only 2 by 2?
Well, it was 3 or 4, depending on the number.
Oh,
So
we
I'm
thought
finding
we were
out
in the
when we-
wrong spot. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. So you guys can go back. Do you want to go back to your room? You know what? Let me put you into another room. Can I put you both into a room that has only 2 people?
Sure.
Wonder if I can, how do I do that? Let's see, 33 and 34. How do I do that? How do I move you manually? So, oh wait, I know, you're back here. Wait, I'm not quite sure how to do this.
I think once you're kicked out, when you highlight our name, you can say join or assign.
Sign. I can put you in the waiting room. I don't think you want that. I think you might need to go to your room, Kay.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like
So,
it.
no, Colleen is here as well.
Right, yeah,
So-
Colleen too. I know I can only deal with one of you at a time.
Right. So
Which room number were you in?
wouldn't know that. So now I can't see because there's a message coming in.
Do you know any of the names of the people you were with?
Oh, there you guys were. Well, it's Colleen Wheaton and Tim Picasoisa were in room 21. You can't select to join that room. So I was going to try to put them into 33 and 34 to put more people in.
Uh-huh.
But
Right.
people are coming back now, right? So
Not yet.
we'll
No,
just
we have
wait.
we have almost 5 minutes left.
Spotlight.
Yeah, you have to move them. You can't re-invite them to the same room. So that would make sense if you put them with the ones that are kind of less people.
Oh, I got it. Figured out. Right. Sorry. Here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that little glitch.
No, it's just you in there. Your other you.
My other, I know. I
Alternate.
guess that's a reason to take me out, perhaps.
I don't know how to tell Zoom not to put people in. Like it tried to put me in.
It's weird because you're a co-host.
I know. I thought it wouldn't.
Yeah.
But,
So will we do the same breakout rooms each time, or is it always okay? Okay.
yeah, it's better that way, so they don't have to introduce them. Well, they may know each
Yeah.
other, but it just reduces that
So-
time spent.
So I'm thinking for people who are in rooms of 2, I can move them. Does that make sense, or just leave them where they are? If they're only 2
How many
people?
we have
32 and 33.
there's like 3 rooms, maybe 4 or 5 rooms. I don't know. Because then they'll be like, why'd you split me up for my friends? Or we could take 2 and 2 and make a 4
That's a good idea.
next time.
Yeah, so I'll join 32 and 33, and then let's see where I can put 31 with.
20 or 19.
20 or 19. Yeah, because Roger's there in the background. My guess is he's multitasking, which is
Right.
fine, Roger, if you're listening. Roger has a Netty report due soon,
Oof.
so let him off the hook.
Do you know if this is set up as a 60 seconds when we close the room? Do they get 60 more seconds?
Yeah, I think that's my default.
Perfect.
I love the annotate function. I think that's
I do too.
fun. Yeah.
I use it probably more than I should, but kind of fun. I'm still surprised after, like, again, how many months when I use it, some people are like, wait, what?
Right.
Like, this is like the best thing in Zoom.
Right.
And people don't know you don't have to use the whiteboard in Zoom to use it. Like you can just use it on your slides.
Slides, right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna,
Another question?
no, it's my other computer saying they're waiting for me. So I'm actually gonna, I'm gonna leave that for now.
You had a really good turnout.
I know.
It's really good.
It's a little overwhelming, but yeah, I won't complain.
Well, and you always had that thing I do where it's like 2 minutes before it starts and there's only like 3 people.
Where are they? Yeah. Yeah.
I know. It's
Or,
very-
last night wondering, gee, will they really remember? They did.
All right, I'm gonna hit close because it's like less than 60 seconds. So they can come back earlier, they can stay there the whole time. That's another thing I find interesting. Who pops back and who stays?
Right. Who's done? They're ready to be done.
Mhm, mhm.
Hi, Ben.
Exactly.
Welcome back.
Some people are gonna stay. They've got 30 more seconds. We'll just squeeze every little moment together because we miss each other. All right, well, as you're popping back in, maybe be thinking about if there was something on the syllabus challenge or something you discussed that you might see as something you can incorporate. We'll get a couple ideas before we go to the next section. Again, this is just a start. So welcome back, everybody. Now we're down to our 60 seconds is up. So all you're popping up on my screen. Love it. Is there anyone who wants to share maybe an idea that they saw or something you discussed that you might incorporate anything that sparked an idea or a tweak, small little tweak you can make.
I don't know if you can see my, hi,
Susie.
this is Suzanne Gaynor. I don't know if you can see me or can you hear me now?
I'm on gallery view, so I can hear you and see you.
Okay. And I got cut off in mid-sentence with Bonnie. So this is also for the benefit of others, mostly in my department in communication, but anybody who teaches a skills-based course. So I teach digital imaging, photography, graphic design, and I teach in a way that is, you know, ideally a combination of learning the technical skills of, let's say, this digital imaging, Photoshop, okay? But they need to get a certain level of technical knowledge down before they can create works that are meaningful. And then it's critique-based.
Mhm.
So I have a hard time getting in, like, how do you do this in a skills-based course where a 101 level skills-based course where they're mostly bogged down in trying to learn the technical how-to. And, you know, of course, it's always been my goal to integrate, you know, thinking and critical thinking about the works, but they're at such a base level of knowledge that I'm not sure how to get from point A to point B in one semester.
Yeah, I mean, this may be a conversation for the end, because it sounds like it's an overall arching question for the whole course design and how do you do inclusive pedagogy. And I also heard in there maybe part of it's about the assessment side, because you're mentioning critiques too, right? So I don't know if that's more for our section that we come to about learning products later.
I don't, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a project-based course. It's a hands-on learning
Right.
type of course. So there's no, there's critique at the end of every project. So,
Right. Mhm.
um,
Well, and I also just thought too, because anybody who's doing skills-based, do you incorporate examples as they're learning these skills? Like you're presenting them with
Yeah.
examples as they're trying to learn these skills. I mean, that might be one spot to think about. So the next section we're about to do is on content, like anything you're showing them, right? And so there's all kinds of ways, especially the richness of the visual, that you could, you know, use that as one of your aspects for inclusive options, right?
mhm.
I just did a workshop. I did this workshop, but not the same one I'm doing for you all, because all the examples are about fine arts last week for like an arts academy. And oh, so fascinating, because we talked a ton about critique and a ton about, you know, what are we presenting when we present art images to students. And we talked about the canon, obviously, and like trying to challenge that, asking students to help us challenge it. Yeah, so it's not that you would need to add different components to your course or change that your course has got these certain goals, right? Just within those goals, what are things that you can incorporate that aren't going to be, and this may be something you already do, but you don't want it to be like all from the same group, that all the same images from the same, showing the same representations. And also, if you're, I don't know if the images the visuals that you'd be showing are artworks, but like, you know, in terms of who produces that, right? You want to have diversity of who is the artist behind those things or the producer of those things. So yeah, I think there's ways to do that. It's just a different kind of content than maybe what traditional faculty might think of in terms of textbooks and articles and things. So, okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you saw on slide 4 or before slide 4? if you ventured off into slide 2 and 3, that's just a little tweak you can make. I mean, Suzanne, that also speaks to your question, because some of these things is just like the language we're using in syllabi can be more inclusive no matter what kind of topic it is, right? Anything else? Can I get one more?
I was going to jump in and say something about, I was looking at, I had a syllabus right in front of me, and I noticed that there's kind of a difference in the language that we're using for our course description versus the learning outcomes or the purpose of the class section that I have in my syllabus. So the course description is something that was agreed upon from a university standpoint or within a department, whereas other parts of the syllabus are something that I wrote myself.
Okay.
So I had the course description. There was a student's will versus other spots where I actually don't use pronouns. I don't use students, but I am a little bit more verb focused with their actions. So I just thought it was interesting from a university. How do we get it to the university perspective versus just the individual?
Yeah, and I don't know how it works with you all, and if you even have the, how much can you control that? Like, are you handed that and you can't change any of the words, or is it like, as long as you keep the essence of those descriptions and goals, could you change students to we, you, could you do that? But that's a good question to ask, I guess. And then I saw Siri, I started adding more of the community language rather than I will language. Okay, yeah. So those are easy tweaks, right? The more we can use, so one of my friends and colleagues, Stephanie Freiberg at University of Michigan, and also Rebecca Covarrubias at UC Santa Cruz, their research is on this interdependent language. And I'm telling you, some of their research would blow your mind. It is, you can just change the language in a welcome letter when you accept a student to a university, the letter from the president that goes out to all the students. Like, we're so happy that, so here's the independent language. We're so happy that you have chosen, to study here with us at so-and-so university, your success, your career. So they're talking about the student as an individual. If they change that welcome letter to just say more about, you and your family have chosen, this as your place to study. And we know that, one of your goals may be to give back to your community. And they talk about the university campus in terms of being a we and a community and supportive learning environment. And that actually had such an impact on even their academic success, their retention rates from year 1 to 2. I mean, it was really powerful. And there's very small changes to language. So I'm ranting about that. So thank you, Siri, for that. Okay, let's look at the content, because this is obviously a huge piece of what students encounter in your class, right? So let me pull this back up, just a couple of examples. Feel free to keep chatting away there, and I will hopefully see it. Okay, so this is, again, anything you make them look at, anything that you say, please look at this, read this, watch this, think about this, okay? Visuals all the way to whatever reading material it might be. So a couple of examples, and again, the before, perfectly fine. And the reason I said this is a 2016 course is because the textbook is from 2007. So even though 2007 for a textbook sometimes can still be okay now, but I just wanted to make it clear it wasn't, the course being taught right now. But this is an early childhood education course. And the main textbook is Intro to Early Childhood Education, preschool through primary grades. I'm sure it's a very sort of typical textbook. It's a major publisher of textbooks. And this is the only reading in the class. What we have to be careful about with textbooks, of course, is whose perspective is being presented in those textbooks. I'm going to go over a few things about that. Now, either you have a textbook or you don't, but maybe you provide these resources to get students to think about, for example, their own social location as an educator in a K through 12 or, early childhood education, more specific setting, and how that's impacting learning environment. What are the kinds of things the students in those learning environments facing that might impact their learning that you need to be aware of, right? And how can you support them? So how does your own bias come into the classroom? So anti-bias education for young children and ourselves. Louis Sturman Sparks. I think that's the first image there. Beverly Daniel Tatum, of course, wrote Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? This is a great book for future educators or pre-service teachers to have access to. Honestly, I've used it in psychology courses. It's really accessible for students and speaks to a lot of issues that they want to talk about. Unpacking biases, developing cultural humility. So talking to future teachers about cultural humility and what that looks like for them, right? And then gender representation in children's books. So getting them to think about even what they're having available in their own classrooms and what that might mean. What kind of messages are they going to be sending to their own students? And they need to be able to be reflective about that, right? You can sort of see the difference. Okay. I want to tell you, and you know what I realize right now is I can't see you. Where'd you go? Here you are. Okay. One of the things that if you ever see any of my pedagogical work, you'll pretty quickly figure out that I am very open about my own pedagogical failures. There are many. they're made to write about. And usually, I realized this years later, but every time I start a book, the first chapter is about how a horrible incident where I did a bad job of teaching. So this is one of those examples. I think this one is the opening to intersectional pedagogy. But anyway, I was teaching a psychology of women course as I was still a graduate student. I was co-teaching it with another white woman graduate student. And we had a very wonderful psychology of women textbook at the time. So this would have been in the year, this is probably 2000 or 2001. In some ways, it doesn't seem like a long time ago, but in other ways it does. And at the time, all, and I do mean all, of the textbooks for this course were extremely focused on white, US, heterosexual, middle class, cisgender, I mean, able-bodied, all the things you can think of that might fit under privilege as a woman, right? All the other areas being privileged. That is what the books were about, right? That's what all the studies were about. That's what all the research focused on. Those are the participants that psychology was focusing on. And so basically the textbook was the mythical norm wrapped all up in a nice little spine-bound book. And so I put Audre Lorde here because mythical norm is her term. So this is extremely problematic, right? So at the time I was trying to analyze these textbooks. I was like, none of these textbooks have diversity, really. I mean, they might have one sentence at the end of a chapter. It's like, and also lesbian women, this is what the one study about them says about that, right? About aging or about whatever it is, motherhood or something. So I thought, well, we found the best one out there, even though it's really still lacking. So let's create a supplemental. Remember when we used to do this? Supplemental packet where you have to submit all your articles to the bookstore and they like put it in a little bound, paperback for the students to buy before class starts. So we did that. And I had all these lesbian scholars and women of color and women from around the globe who are writing on all these issues. And I had a couple of examples from women with disabilities writing about, how gender intersects with all these things. I was just so proud of myself again. And so I went to class. The first day we went to class and we presented this and we were like, here's the syllabus. And this one Black woman student in the class, so she was probably 18 or 19, raised her hand. I was like, yes, please, no. She just said, point blank, I'm not in this textbook. And she just basically called us out right there. And as she should have. I mean, it was completely unacceptable. And so she did that bravely, I thought. And my co-instructor kind of started, apologizing for the textbook industry and how not diverse it is, but that we didn't really have a choice, right? And so I try to jump in and say, well, that's why I created this supplemental packet. And I'm like trying to make it okay with the supplemental packet. None of that's okay. So we have to really work on, and it's hard because the system is the textbook industry, right? We have to really work on not being okay with it and what are we going to do about it, right? So we need to encourage ourselves and our students to challenge the traditional canon, whatever that canon is for you. It may be, what's considered the most important studies. Maybe we need to start to question that. Maybe it's like, because who were the people being studied, for example, and were they being studied on or with, and all those questions that come up. So I just wanted to bring that up because thanks to that student for telling me, yeah, I hadn't done such a great job as this person who was trying to be a good ally as an educator. So what I did from there going forward, and this is just an idea to put out there, is I started working on disrupting that canon with my students. So this is just a little example that's not really about the syllabus challenge, but something that was really fun and might really be energizing for you. And that is to say that I took that course and I redesigned it with this is in the future, a few years, but when I got into my tenure track job, I redesigned that course to my grad students. And I redesigned it with students who were going to take the course. So we met in the summer, designed, came up with new assessments, assignments, and then they took it in the fall. And so they were kind of like pre-TAs. And we got really creative and we renamed the course to be more intentional about it being not just about, sort of this mythical norm, like I was mentioned before, privileged groups of women. And the course very much had an intersectional social justice pedagogy focus. So I only mentioned that to say it's available also on my website. You can just download it, the assignment, the syllabus for that course and all that. And this is something you may do if you think, gosh, I just don't know, like what would this look like if it was different? Well, maybe we don't have to know by ourselves, right? Our students have great ideas about, let me tell you what else. These students want to be way harder on themselves in terms of how much work they were assigning than I would ever have been. They did not try to make the class easy. I had to back them down from so much requiring papers. And well, also I was like, when am I supposed to grade all this? But they were going full on, like, we should do this and this and this. I was like, let's focus. So they don't try to make it easy on themselves. And I had someone ask in another workshop if they just did this for free labor. No, they did not. Some of them were already RAs, and so part of their hours we used for this. Some of them were TAs with pay. And then later on, they all co-presented with me at conferences on this process that we did together and published with me on it. So it was super fun. Okay. All right, do I need to read this? Okay, great. Oh, OER, thank you for mentioning open educational resources. Okay. A couple more things and then we'll zoom back into, breakout rooms. So just thinking about whose names and faces are showing up in our courses. So even if you never actually teach a topic that's like a social issue, totally fine. Many disciplines, that's not what you're doing, of course, right? You're not necessarily going to be, having a unit on prejudice like I would. But who are the people that you're having represented, content from that has been created by, right? And so one of the problems with my discipline in psychology, and perhaps yours, let me pull up my chat, it went away, okay, is we usually only use first initials and last names. And so what I've tried to do more during class, and anytime I give them any sort of bibliography, is use first names and use images of these scholars, because I could incorporate supposedly more inclusive scholarship that's not only about and for marginalized communities, but by scholars from those communities. The students wouldn't even know that because the last name may not indicate that to them. It may not signal that to them. And so I just have some examples here, but so Desi Rios, these are some social psychologists, because that's me, right? And in the middle, these are more about art examples. But I tell them what they've done, how they're changing the discipline, why it's important that their perspective is included, even if it's not yet. These are people who are doing current, really cutting edge work. So it may not make it into a textbook until 10, 15, 20 years later. And maybe not even then, because the textbook industry is so complex and sort of supportive of the traditional canon, right? We talk about that in my classes, that textbooks are come from a certain perspective. And so when I talk about Stephanie Freiberg, I talk about how she's an indigenous scholar, the Tallulah tribe in Washington State. She's at the University of Michigan. I mentioned her work before in this workshop. And so not only first names, but also images and why it's important for them to be the people who are making our discipline better, right? Okay, think about engaging a syllabus co-designing process. Love it. It makes me nervous though. Understood. You don't have to accept all their suggestions, by the way, and I did not. Not only did I say you can't have these assignments, but some of the things I came up with I thought would be too difficult to complete by the end of the semester, or there was something else, something that was weekly, and I thought this is just going to overwhelm the students. So you just have to set them up front. What are the parameters, right? Okay, people have tried some of this. All right, cool. Y'all are great. All right, let's see what else. I think, yes, we have time to go back to syllabus challenge. So this is really what I would call the meat of your syllabus that students are looking for. It's like, what are they making me read, right? And hopefully they are reading. That's a whole other question for another workshop. So I want you to go back to your groups. We might, Emily, be confining a couple groups because I know some of you only had 2 people. So I don't think you're going to lose your partner, but you might join up with another couple of people, right?
Right, I did that already.
Okay.
I'm noticing there are some other groups of 2, so I might move some of you as well. So I'm going to open rooms. See you.
So as you're prepping, okay, you're going in now. Slides 5 and 6, but I'll put that in the notes on the broadcast. Okay.
So room 3 only has 2.
Okay,
Hmm,
that's, I mean, yeah.
I can put them into, everybody else is 3 or 4. Oh, no, you know what? Maybe I'll put them into 20.
I was gonna say 20, yeah.
Yeah, so was that room 3 I said?
Mhm.
All right, so I'm gonna move 20 into 3.
They'll be surprised.
I know. Actually, somebody from 20 like nudged and said, our group was small. Roger.
Okay.
Okay. I'll move Roger there too, just in case. Okay. Now they should all be very productive. I hope.
Yeah, it'll be good. So we're at 11 o'clock. Okay, so let me look at my.
This is great.
I hope it's helpful. I mean,
I love the examples. I think just like even, you know, from the biology perspective, just giving some language or words,
mhm.
I think that's really useful.
Perhaps this is something you'll talk about, but in seeing the before and after syllabi, like the biology example Emily just said, what it also does is it creates a more engaging syllabus. And I think people who have recrafted syllabi are going to see bumps in attendance of their classes because people are going to know what the class is about. They're going to say, oh, I care about these things. So like that's a whole nother context.
Oh yeah,
That's
just making your
valuable
syllabus
too.
not a boring document would be a step.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen people doing these infographic syllabi?
Mm.
It's very impressive to me. I mean, now, do I have the skills to do that and it be accessible to people? I do not. So I'm like staying away from it. But what I used to do, I did it for one class, is I took my whole syllabus and I put just lots more images and space in it. And so I would put a space that would be like, here's where you write your notes. Because then when we're going over it in class, I'd be like, now there's a spot for you to make notes about what we just said, right? And then so they had to like, you know, hopefully pay more attention and think about that. And it was like just trying to invite them in to be part of the syllabus. And I thought it was much more fun to look at than, you know, just words and then links out and things like that.
What do the students think though? Because I go back and forth. So one of the comments in the chat about, you know, adding in the images, but balancing having, you know, keeping the syllabus short.
Oh, the syllabus, I was thinking like if you're doing the images I don't have in the syllabus for the scholar.
Okay.
Right. Because I don't even put in my syllabus where all the list of readings because I actually just use my LMS to have it all there. But
yes.
yeah, so I would either put it with the reading in like Blackboard or Canvas, or if I'm doing any slides, I'd put them with their research so they could, and I would talk about, you know, their background a little bit. These are people I know from professional associations, so it's kind of built in that way. And for people who are like, well, I don't know who these people are, so it would take me a lot to find it. What a great assignment for students.
Yes.
To start to build your repertoire of options for scholars from other, you know, backgrounds that aren't part of that canon right now. Students would be all over doing that. And that's how we got a lot of wiki pages of scholars who weren't, you know, they were kind of invisible in their fields, but doing really great work. And faculty had assignments for students to create wiki pages about underrepresented scholars. And then we got all these new, and a lot of it is in STEM too. So those are kind of fun things to do.
That's
great. They research a scholar and they make a page.
As so I'm the director of the library, but previously I was the instruction librarian. So I got to see a whole swath of syllabi, maybe more so than anyone else at the college. I've seen the good and the bad. And one of the most beautiful syllabi, which did have pictures, and it was pretty common for her, was Tona Hangen. I don't see her here today, but I think she very much adopted this idea that the syllabi can be a beautiful document and not just a bureaucratic, you know.
Here's what you do when you get in trouble. Here's how you get in trouble.
a punitive bureaucratic document.
Right.
And you just look at this well-crafted, and yes, the challenges of accessibility of having that done, but you could tell as a prospective student that if the faculty member cared this much about this syllabi, which is often like a throwaway, I think most students see it that way, and we wish they wouldn't see it as a throwaway. But if that faculty member took that much time and attention, you knew the rest of the class was going to follow suit.
That's a good point. So, because it is a cue, right? It's a signal to them of something, whether it's a signal that's not great, a not so great signal, or a signal that this person puts a lot of effort in, and he's really passionate about this, right? And really wants us to be part of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I second that, Matt. Tona's syllabi get praised all the time. Yeah. They're lovely. They're
I'd
informative.
love to see one of those. That's really cool.
And I don't think we're talking out of school, because I almost feel like at another CTL workshop, hers were held up as some type of exemplar, you know.
Right.
No, I don't think we are. And in fact, she's not here today. And she also, not only do they look good, the quality it's top notch. And she also often does syllabus design workshops for us,
Yes.
Student learning outcomes and content as well. Yeah.
You know what I'm going to do while they're on this last 3 minutes? I'm going to do a restroom break real quick.
Yep. Take a break.
Okay,
Hi,
gotcha.
Roger. Roger, you can join your breakout room, or you can hang out here with the cool kids. I mean, we're all cool kids.
Sorry, I've been having connection issues, so.
No worries. So we're
I saw the attempt to join the breakout room, and it just I've logged out and logged back in. So
no kidding. I'm
Right.
going to so I can find in the chat where Kim shared a link to like the syllabus challenge, the actual like document that's guiding what everyone's doing right now. So I'm going to put it in the chat again.
oh, thank you.
See if that works. She did say you need to copy it into your own Google Drive or save it as a PDF or as a PowerPoint, because you can't mark or edit her version. It won't let you. But the idea is that
Okay.
you can actually take notes in it if you wish. And no worries. It's it's May 26th.
So yeah, I've got it downloaded.
Okay, perfect. So feel free to join your room or hang out here.
It doesn't have me assigned anymore because I
You're not?
log out and log back in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna put you in room 1 if that's all right. It's with Alil and Luis.
Sounds good.
Okay. See you later.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is good because we'll have time to do the learning products, and then we'll come back from the breakouts from that. Then I'll go over some things about policy,
Okay,
just examples of that, and then we'll have time for
fabulous.
discussion if they want to do that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, my guess is that they do. I feel like the group seems a little bit quiet. I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, I want to push them a little bit when they come back this time.
Okay.
There's another person.
Oh, Nabin, welcome. Where'd you just come from?
I admitted.
Oh, you did. I didn't see him. Where should we?
Hello.
Yeah. Good
Hi.
morning.
Oh, you know what? Let me put the
Yeah,
chat in the chat.
the link again.
Yes. So I'm gonna put in the chat this link. You might want to click on that before you go to your breakout, because you'll need it. You'll need it there.
Sorry, I
I'm just-
was in another meeting.
No worries. No worries. I love your background.
I'm looking for
So
a good.
actually, don't go anywhere because we're now done with that breakout.
Oh,
So they're going to come back in 60 seconds, and you'll see waves of different people coming back.
But we're glad you're here.
But there, you got the link in the chat, though, right? Okay.
Yes.
So we went through. We looked at slide 4 together, and then slide 5 and 6 together about content, and now we're going to look at basically assignments. So.
Cool. Thank you.
These are the early returners. Got different views on how this goes. Okay, Be thinking about what you're going to say on our report back here. Get some examples. Ten seconds. I feel like we should do a little exercise. This is going to be technical. Go to your stop video button at the bottom and click on the little arrow beside it, and then click on video settings. So stop video, there's a little arrow up caret, you know, and click video settings. I want you to scroll down and hit hide non-video participants, because we're going to do an activity real quick. Hide non-video participants, turn that on, click it so it turns blue. Okay. All right, now everybody turn your video off, and then you don't see stop record, no, not stop record. Stop video at the bottom has a little camera where you can stop your video, little arrow beside that, and then go to video settings. Once you have video settings up, you scroll down to it, and it'll say hide non-video participants. So you turn that little blue, it should be blank, and you want to click on, so it has a little blue check mark in it. Is that working? Once you get that clicked, hit stop video on the bottom left. Okay, y'all finding it? Angela? Did you find the video settings?
I found the video settings, but I can't really hide.
You have to scroll down. It's not going to show up on the first screen that pops up. You have to scroll down to find it. It's under always show video preview dialog when joining a video meeting. If you can't find it, it's okay.
Is it under choose?
It's just, you know what we're going to do for the three of you? Just do stop video, and this is still going to work perfectly fine.
No, stop video. Okay,
Okay.
stop video.
Everybody stop video except me. All right. Okay, Angela, stop video. Okay, perfect. Here's what we're going to do. Oh, sorry, Gary. Hit stop video. Here's what we're going to do. In a second, I'm going to turn my video off. I'm going to read a statement, and if it applies to you, you're going to turn your video back on, and you're going to show up on everybody's screen, okay? So it's super simple. You're going to turn your video back on if you teach in social sciences. There's my people. There's all my people. Love you guys. Yay, social sciences. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs up. We're the best. Okay. I didn't say that. All right, videos off. All videos off. Thank you. Please turn your video back on if you teach in natural science of any sort. Physical sciences, natural sciences. Look at all these people. Yes. Oh, look at that background, Jeffrey. Love it. Yay. All right. Thank you. Oh, there's more. Okay. Okay, video's off. Next group. Video's off. Video's off. Okay. All right. I'm going away. If you teach in education, video's on. Yay. Look at that. The heroes of the day. Thank you all so much. Okay, video's video's off. All right, my video needs to be off. How about humanities of any sort? Oh, I shouldn't turn that on. Humanities. You know what? I am going to turn mine on because I'm also in gender, sexuality, women's studies. So yay for us. And Emily, you might have to help me with these rest of these categories. Okay, camera's off. If you are a staff member or administrator who does not teach currently and has joined us today, turn your video on. Yay. Oh, so nice of you all to be with us. Oh, there's quite a few people. All right. Yay. Wonderful. Video's off.
Students?
Emily?
How about students?
Thank you. Yes, if you're here and you're a student, please, video's on. I'll turn mine off because I'm not, this account. Yay! Oh, there's so many.
Yay!
Oh,
Go
nice.
mentors.
Thank you all so much. Great. I'm glad you're here. Okay. Good to see your faces. Okay. Is that everybody? Yeah, video's off on that. And then Emily, tell me another discipline that's here.
Oh gosh, I feel pressure.
Oh, sorry. Health sciences. That any health sciences that we didn't already cover. Cameras on. Yay! Don't want to forget you. Don't want to forget you. Okay, creative arts. Yes. Okay, creative arts. Let's see. All right. So that's health sciences, nursing, and other people, occupational therapy. Okay. Turn your videos back off. And then I've got suggestions in the chat. Great. Okay, creative arts. Shout out to Hank and Suzanne. Oh, okay. He was just suggesting. And Eric. Okay. Creative art. Yay. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be in there. All right. Video's off. Any disciplines that haven't had an opportunity? Okay. Adam. Okay. I thought we left you out. So how about anybody who is a cat parent? My cat has made no appearances today, which is a complete miracle, and I'm sad about it, actually. He's ignoring me. So I'm sure they've all been in your Zoom meetings the past 16 months. All right, and cameras off. I'll be nice to the dog people. All right, I do love dogs, but I don't have one. Matt, are you a dog person? Great. Dog people, show up. There's gonna be more of you, no doubt. I'm sure they've been in your Zoom sessions as well. Okay.
I'm back for both, dog and cats.
There you go. So you can be in both. Exactly. Perfect. Okay. Cameras, I guess off. And then let's see, what's one last one we want to do? People who feel hopeful for the fall semester. Ooh. Oh, that's good news. Oh, that's good news. I guess I hope we're being honest about that. That's great. Okay, so now we will stop playing the game. So you can turn your camera off if you just prefer to have it off, or you can leave it on if you prefer to have it on. I just wanted to kind of loosen this up a little bit because I feel like y'all have been a little shy today, and this is the practice that you can use in your classes. If you want to do just a little, something to get to know each other, community building. If you would like to go back to your settings so that you can see your colleagues who have their cameras off, see their names, go back into video settings and unclick the hide non-video participants. So then we can see everybody's names. Okay. I think that was worth the time. All right. You had a breakout session a while back that was about content and looking at slides. I think it was 5 and 6. So what came out of that, if you can remember back that far? Any ideas? I want to get at least 3 little nuggets of something maybe people are considering tweaking. Volunteers. Oh, raised hand, Alessandra.
Yeah, we were talking in our group, or I think I brought this up about how, I've used textbooks in my courses this year, and I'm trying to sort of shift a little bit more towards either not doing textbooks and just doing journal articles or essays. But I find that it's sometimes challenging for students to understand a journal article with all the jargon.
Right.
And in that conversation came up that maybe a reader would be a good idea, but I would just love to hear what others may have done to try to find that balance.
That is hard because there are positives about textbooks, right? They do some summarizing and they do accessible language, some better than others, but more than a journal article, right? Which is not intended to be a student first audience. Yeah, I totally hear you on that. Anybody want to respond to that?
I can respond. I've tried to ditch most textbooks. If I do have them read a book, it's like an actual book, like Kate Mann's recent book named Entitled. But I found that getting rid of really trying to diminish the amount of money students need to spend on their reading materials has been really welcomed by a lot of students. They really appreciate that I'm saving them some money, and then it also presents some sort of perhaps greater diversity or puts me in control. I don't necessarily teach the you know, the 30-page long journal articles do not work very, very well. And so, you know, I have a lot of various readers that'll pull from, or different things like that, or, you know, trying to stay on the shorter side of readings. But yeah, when we do read actual books, you know, it's like a dialogue of Plato, or like an actual, you know, like an actual book that's been written by someone in the discipline rather than a textbook. And I think that has worked really well. You can still, you know, I still scan from some textbooks and use them, but I do basically create my own readers for most of my classes. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
And the ones that I don't, they're reading actual books. So
I mean, this is certainly not, Alessandra, this is certainly not an easy thing to solve, right? Because you can also go into OER, accessible, what am I trying to say? Creative Commons, you know, people have created sort of open educational resources textbooks, and then you're allowed to use them at no charge. Your students can use them at no charge and those kinds of things. Now, how much are they doing inclusive practices within those is a different question, right? And are they just free versions of the same problematic kind of mode of textbooks? I think there's probably a variety. So it's a place to look. And then I don't know if you have any internal pools of money for pedagogical work, but you could also apply for a course release or funds. I don't work there, right? Easy for me to say, to create your own open educational resource that you would then use for your classes. And then you could also make available to anyone, anywhere who wanted to use it. I think that's worth funding, but anyway. All right, another idea that popped up or something, part of your conversation? One more.
In my group, oh, sorry.
Who is it?
Dallas.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm a student here.
Yes.
One of the things my group was talking about was diversity in the spectrum of learning. So I'm a history major, and I've heard a lot of people in the history program say this, that a lot of taught history is very Eurocentric,
right,
when it comes to events and perspectives and things. So it would be good to broaden out to different areas. I know Worcester State's doing that. Professor Fromm, I see, is here. It's one of the people headlining this, the new Asian Studies courses that are being taught.
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So when we talk about there's so much we could break down when we talk about what is the traditional canon of a discipline. It often is Eurocentric, right? It often is androcentric, and so very, a lot of scholars who are men being highlighted. One of the things that's been coming out more recently with some disciplines is finding out more about the grad students who did the work that male scholars got credit for many decades before now, and maybe not even that long, but if we're thinking about major discoveries we've had in science, for example, and we've got Hidden Figures and all these movies happening, but those are examples too of ways we can highlight, it wasn't just this one person who's always named, there was this whole team of people, and look who was involved in that team. So I appreciate that a lot, Dallas, for bringing that up. Okay, any others? Yeah.
Champika has had her hand up for a while.
Okay, let me see. Let me go back to the right screen. That's my fault. Champika.
That's right.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I think you had asked us to put it in the chat rather than this.
Okay, I probably would have missed that
did
too.
it differently. So we discussed briefly the notion of separating diversity as a special topic as opposed to infusing it throughout the curriculum, which is always the sort of, does it have to be either or? So it's something that it looks like we are discussing at the university level in terms of a diversity requirement as a special area, but also in our department in psychology, and I think almost all our people are here, so you can jump in, where we will have a diversity requirement, but it doesn't mean that we should also then have it infused throughout all of our courses. So this is sometimes a tension where we do have to come to things like this and expand our knowledge base.
I love that so much. I mean, this is kind of a classic debate within DEI too, right? Like, oh, there shouldn't be one thing, it should all be infused, but then the people are like, yeah, but if we say we're going to infuse, then no one does it. And so we need one thing. So I love I think your response is that we need to be doing both. Is that close enough? I think so, because I don't think we're to the point yet where we understand what infusion looks like enough to where we do it well and we do it responsibly and ethically and morally and follow through on it, that we can give up saying that there's one space that we for sure dedicate to it. So I think a both and sadly for a while is probably going to be the way to go. And I mean that in terms of curriculum, and I mean that in terms of universities and how they're set up, right? Because some people say, well, wouldn't it be great if we got to the point where we didn't need an inclusive excellence unit on campus? Well, hell yeah, it'd be great, but we're not there. We're not all doing it well. And so someday, maybe hundreds of years from now, maybe we don't need that. But right now we still need dedicated spaces, dedicated courses, dedicated, people, and people working on infusing. So I'm so glad you brought that up. And sorry I missed your hand. And now I see that there's Nick with a hand.
Oh, hi. I have sort of two comments I wanted to make.
Okay.
My first one is definitely on diversity panels, but I feel like we should try to incorporate a lot more co-curriculum activity sort of at our school, because one thing I noticed was we had a police brutality speaker come in for TWA. And I feel like a lot of people taking CJ, that would be a very valuable resource, because they had a professor with a doctorate from UCLA. And I was sort of how come there aren't more people coming? And I was like, how come this isn't required in the curriculum, that you show up to at least a couple events that are in your major and in your field, and important to hear, from higher level professors, which will expand your learning, expand your mind. And the second thing I wanted to talk about was we have this pantry called Thea's Pantry, which is they collect food and canned goods and all that stuff. And I wonder why we don't do that with textbooks, because I know it takes away money from the university. But if we could donate all those textbooks that are collecting dust in our closet and sort of initiate that and sort of have a place for students to go like that, it would be very valuable on campus. And it'd be a lot better than I saw one of the comments said the OLE or whatever it was called, the online learning one, that shortens the textbook because you don't get the full textbook. So that was your point in the chat. So I feel like that would give the opportunity for students to have those resources.
Those are great ideas. So the first one you're talking about would be if if a student affairs office on campus was bringing in speakers, not a speaker inside a class, right? Something that anybody could go to. Is that right, Nick? And I couldn't agree more with that either. Co-curricular options being more infused in terms of our majors and our education process, and our plan really would be great. And getting access to those people, you probably do, Nick, but some of you, you do know how much work it takes to get someone to organize that in the past and in the future, to bring them physically to campus to give a talk, maybe virtually right now, right? Like this. It's a lot, and to set all that up. So many people put so much effort into it, and then sometimes it's hard to get the word out in time. And so every university has communication problems about how do we get people to know, and how do we get the right professors who would want to tell their students about it to know, things like that. So all great things to work on. And about the textbook pantry idea, I love that so much. I feel like there are systems at play that need to be fixed that prevent that. Now, your university might not have this problem, but I have been at universities where there's a contract with the bookstore that says you're not allowed to do something like what you just suggested. And that's problematic, right? We need to get rid of those kind of contracts. We need to have it be more of a, if there's something we need to serve our students, we should be able to do that and not be in violation of a contract with the bookstore, which you may not even have, but that's one thing I know happens on some campuses. So it may have to be an underground thing students start. So I support it. Okay, lots of great stuff is happening in the chat. Wonderful. Okay, I want to do one more. Feel free to keep adding there. I want to do one more section here about, okay, nope. Let me go back. Learning products. Okay, so we still have that section to do, right? Yes. Okay. And then we'll do some more discussion here at the end. So thumbs up, you can see the screen. Learning products. Okay, so this is everything you have people turn in that you then assess that have they learned something. So it could be stuff I haven't listed here as well, right? Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to do very brief examples. We're going to get back to talking to each other much quicker this time. And okay, I'll open the chat, but I can't promise I'm reading it. Okay. Many of you may have, as students and as faculty, as when you were students, written a lot of research papers. I did. I didn't always love it. Sometimes I did if I got to write on a topic I cared about. But this is like the cornerstone of higher education final paper, right? You write a research paper. And I did this, sure, as a faculty member, I did what I was taught. I recreated the same system. I said, write a research paper. I do see a lot of value in it. I'm not devaluing it, but I want to tell you what I did switch to. So this is very sort of typical of what my previous psychology undergrad upper level course might have. So research paper or essay. You're going to look at the research. You're going to expect it to be able to develop your own ideas. This is, I don't need to read this to you. You've seen it before. This person gives me a paper. I then read it by myself in isolation, and then I tell them what the grade is. That's the process, right? We're about to blow that up if I can figure out how to switch slides. Okay. So going back to my students and I co-creating a course. So we co-created this assignment as part of that course. So they did not have a final research paper. And this was a graduate course, master's level course. So it's called, in this scenario, because I was focusing on intersectionality in the class, Intersections Education Project. Now, you can take the word intersections and input anything you care about that you want them to learn. Blank education project. You can make this your own. So all they had to do was choose a specific intersection. So in that class, that meant, you know, maybe Black women and their experiences in education. Okay, so maybe they wanted to educate some people about that. But that's not the point. They just had to choose something within my topic area. So your topic area could be something else. And number two is the only important piece here. They had to pick a public group and they had to educate them on it in some way. So you'll notice now there's no Dr. Case is reading this in isolation. There's no, oh my gosh, another research paper. It's no longer just like doing it for a grade. They have to present it to real humans that are not me, right? Like a real group of people out in the world. And they were allowed to customize it to their career goals. So I had students from education, social work, clinical psychology. So lots of different types of career paths happening. And they could customize to like what they were going to do after this degree, okay? That's it. That's all I gave them, pretty much. They had to write a reflective paper afterwards, so like a 4 to 5 page reflection on the process and what they learned and all of that. But this is about all I gave them. And you might imagine they were like, wait, why aren't you giving us all the tiny little steps, like 27 steps from A to A/C, right? And so that was fine. But when they started sort of pushing back on wanting more scaffolding, and we had a really productive conversation about how sometimes you need scaffolding and sometimes it's good if you don't have scaffolding. And so because I stayed out of it, to be honest with you, they did amazing things I could have never dreamt up. I'm going to give you a couple examples that you see here. So I did help them with finding the target audience, because they were like, wait, what do you mean public? Who in the public? And I'm like, well, who do you think should know stuff that we're reading in this class? Who do you think should know about these things? Oh, well, my kid who's biracial has this teacher who says these things that are inaccurate about history. Oh, so teachers are a good target audience, right? So they're able to connect it to things happening in their lives. So I'll start with the bottom picture here. This picture, I don't know if you can see my mouse, which has like the 8 sort of visuals of faces. That's a clipped image from a documentary, like a full 15-minute documentary that my Filipina student made about Hollywood movies whitewashing Asian characters. And so she looked at intersections of race, gender, media systems, and how the public sort of understanding of Asian characters was being, played by all these white actors and things, for example. And then she had suggestions in her documentary about the harm that comes from that and what should be done. It was slick. Like she's not a film student, so I was very impressed, and the whole class was. DJ here at the top, he was his major at the time. Oh my goodness, I'll have to go back and look. He is now a director of student affairs at a community college in Maryland. He's amazing. But anyway, at the time, he was looking up ideas of what to do, and he just cold contacted a nonprofit group in New York City that does work with women who are transnational domestic workers in New York City. So they have come from all over the world, specific spots, of course, all over the world, to work in New York City privileged homes to earn money to send back to their families, right? So they come to New York and they don't know what their rights are. They don't know what their rights are in New York and in the US, and things happen to them, like their passports get taken away from them and they're not allowed to leave the house and things. So DJ helped connect that nonprofit with a whole bunch of people to translate their materials about rights and new laws that had been enacted into a bunch of different languages. I think they had 6 new languages, and they physically handed out 1,000 more brochures to women in New York City that they were trying to target because of the work DJ did during that semester. And this whole project, I was like, I never would have dreamed this up, right? And so their creativity is way stronger than mine. And then the little game board you see here is a fun example where a student created a board game about intersectionality. So a board game about whatever topic you want them to focus on, right? And then she had some people at a community center play it, and then they talked about what intersectionality is. So there are a lot of other examples I won't tell you about. The whole point is maybe what we think of as traditional learning products aren't getting us where we want to go. And so these students helped me think of like just this really creative solution for another option. And all of this is also available on my website if you want to download I've got instructor materials there, the assignment materials. And again, feel free to tweak it, use parts of it, read it, see if you like it, use it for your own. Okay. And the last thing before we talk to each other about learning products, how did you get involved in making connections with places? Not very, but I will say they were graduate students. So I think senior undergraduates wouldn't necessarily need a ton of help figuring out connections in places, but anybody who was stuck, like I'm thinking about this kind of community group or this kind of target population, if they didn't know how to get access, I helped them. You know, I didn't mention the most powerful one probably. Johnny, a Chinese American he was clinical psychology, and he wanted to work with juvenile detention officers in our local county. And he did workshops with the juvenile detention officers on the intersection of masculinity, toxic masculinity, homophobia, and crime and recidivism. And that was amazing. He got access to these officers. He did that with them. They work with youth, boys, right? Those people are part of that system. And so he was working with them on understanding some of these concepts. He did want to work with the boys, but the background check took too long for the class, so he worked with the officers. I honestly think that's better because they're the people who are sort of influencing what's being taught to the boys that are sort of going through that system. Okay. Oh yeah, I had definite proof that they had interacted with other humans. Yeah, okay, we can come back to that, Dana. Okay, all right, so this last slide, I know it's been here a while already. So what forms of assessment put these students' voices at the center of the learning process? And I mean these 2 ballerinas standing in front of the Robert E. Lee statue, previous monument in Richmond, right? This space has been taken over by the community, the Black community of Richmond, and it's turned into a space for organizing and community support and all kinds of wonderful things. And I want to make it clear, like these 2 ballerinas are not abstract or theoretical or distant, right? These are our students. Activists are our students. People that care about these issues are our students. Also, they are us. Also, they are current and future clients of our students, or people they work with and colleagues, right? So I want us to try to think of things happening out in the world are happening in our classrooms, and they're not separate, because I think that's another higher education myth that can all be checked at the door, right? So the day after Breonna Taylor's killer gets acquitted, what does that mean in your classroom, right? Do we not talk about it? Do we skip over it? Do we go on as scheduled, right? These are things we need to think about a little bit more. Okay, so let's see real quick. Oh yeah, so right, we didn't actually have any organization have to put any time and effort into this. So we can talk about that too when we come back if you want to. All right, let's do learning products. This is slide 7 to 8, okay? And I want you to have time to talk to each other. So I'll stop share. We'll still do 10 minutes and then we'll do Q&A at the end. If you want to talk about some of these things, we can do that. So Emily, does that work?
That
So
works.
Slide 7 and 8 would be where most of those kind of ideas and questions to get your brain juices going again. Okay.
Everybody all set? See you.
All right. I'll start the timer on that. As soon as everybody gets popped in there. Oh yeah, and then we had one person who needs to be added to a, I guess I could put room 2. Yeah, I'll just put you in room 2. Okay, here you go.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye, Ethan.
It's so strange that when breakout rooms happen, it changes the participant number in here, just because it's just us.
Right, right. It's right. I feel like everyone's still here.
Right. Okay, so here we go on the timer. Okay.
Looks like room 8 has lost a few people, so I'm going to move her to room 7.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I don't remember who was in there.
Yeah, I know some people couldn't be the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I missed a lot because there was a lot of comments. Here we are.
I love the comments in the chat. I love hearing what everybody else is doing also. It's fun. It's fun for them too. And thank you for being so sharing with all your materials.
Oh yeah, all that stuff on there, they can pull it and tweak it, use it, don't use it. Take one piece of it, whatever.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find resources that other people have created, so just trying to do a little bit more of that. Let's see. Okay, so talking about the OER, great, library. Okay.
I think my favorite comment about OER and the like was Hank saying, this is our Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs, saying the library will buy ebooks for you. Well, what he doesn't know is that we can't afford to buy all the ebooks that come in. So if he's going to ordain us to buy ebooks, I hope there's some funding attached.
It's an unfunded mandate, Matt.
Also, one of the problems is the publishers are just screwing everybody on ebooks because they know that if a library gets a simultaneous, unlimited simultaneous user ebook, the students aren't going to buy it. So even if it's requested by a faculty member, it might not even be available for purchase because publishers have locked it down. That is a systemic, huge problem, not just for us, but all of higher ed.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to take your conversation down the country lane there.
I love a good country lane. It's where I grew up. We didn't even talk about, I didn't even talk, gosh, I really should start this as social location stuff for myself. I didn't even do it. I've always got so much to talk about.
So Matt, I was going to just change the conversation for a moment. Your background, I think, is really funny because my son, I have a high school senior who's off to college in the fall. And one of the postcard mailings he got was from Miami University that looked like Miami, like Florida. And you flip it over, right? It was excellent recruiting. And my thought was, that's where you're going. And you flip it over and it's like, oh, it's the other Miami.
The other.
So, the same sort of, greetings from Miami. Anyway, so I was distracted by that for a moment.
I've been to Miami University in Ohio. I have a colleague who used to work there, and we visited and had a lovely time. And it was not tropical.
Is that where your son is?
I'm sorry?
Is that where he's going?
No, I was just going to say, and he is not going there. Yeah, no, he's going to Union College in Schenectady, New York.
Oh, okay. So I collected half my dissertation data at Miami University. I live like 20 minutes from it, in between. Well, I went to University of Cincinnati, so it's in between. Yeah, it's great. I still have a really close friend that graduated from
No, we traveling west was he couldn't wrap his head around it. We Purdue, he applied to Purdue, got in, and just for engineering didn't even want to visit.
That's where before Worcester State and before Quincy, I was at Purdue for 6 years, and
Did you
there
love
was
or hate
there
it?
was like 5,000 engineers there. It was
Yes, right.
certainly colored the campus and the surrounding town. Even though it was a massive, large Midwestern State University, it didn't have that traditional liberal arts humanities vibe, college town vibe that, say, Bloomington did for IU. And I really think it was because of the sci-tech focus. No offense, sci-tech people.
It's all right. As Mary Fowler, resident mathematician, joins the Zoom again. Mary, do you remember which room you were in? Do you want to go back to
I
your
was
room?
in room 7. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So how do I get you? I'm going to put you there. There, on your way. That was timed perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just can't wrap his head around. He couldn't wrap his head around it, so that's fine. Whatever it is.
We liked West Lafayette, but we needed to be back closer to family. So.
And I need him to be farther from family. That would be me.
Yep.
Trying to answer these questions in the chat so I don't have to take up the discussion time when I come back.
Thank you. Oh, that's great. Hey, Jen. Are you just getting all set? You're muted, but are you just getting all settled for yoga?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
See how this.
All right. So on my screen, Kim Case is right above you, and we're recording.
Oh, okay.
We won't record yoga, but for you, if you want to watch the
right.
Okay, I gotta see how this shows up. Kind of nice to have this giant room.
Right.
Well, thanks for carrying all your stuff in this morning. I saw you walking down from the parking lot.
Let's see.
You've used these hover cam things before, Emily, right? How do I like change what it's seeing?
What do you mean?
Like,
to adjust the so don't touch the thing that says don't touch, but on the other side there's controls to raise it up and down. Like on the right, I think it's on the right side of the hover cam.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
The document camera, yeah. You can raise it up and down. You can adjust the actual arm as well, and then you can raise the whole mechanism, and you can tilt it as well.
Oof. Is this making any difference?
Doesn't look like it's moving. There are the little buttons right on it?
Yeah.
Nothing happening? What about
Well,
moving
like the buttons on the bottom?
of the actual? Well, there are buttons on the camera part of it, right? That's the actual hover cam, the document camera, I mean.
Mm-hmm. Like
And then-
little silver buttons on the bottom.
Maybe. There might be some direct laminated directions in there.
That's not doing anything. How is?
about the arm? Yeah, it doesn't look like it hasn't moved. Like you'll notice it moved, right? When you can adjust the height of the whole pilot 3.
It's not doing anything. I can maybe go get.
Dean might be around.
Yeah, I think. He's
Dean's in a breakout room right now with us, but. But I'll tell you, I think we could give him a little poke.
They're on their way back.
They're on their way back, right? So we can
okay,
chat with
you
Dean.
can help me then. He's
Sure.
probably downstairs.
Probably.
So Emily, I am going to talk about a couple of these policies real quick.
Oh, the which policy?
I'm just going to show a couple of more slides about the policy section of the syllabus.
Oh, yes. Perfect.
It's just a couple ideas. It's not, but there's some stuff in the challenge that goes into more
Okay.
details about it.
Great.
30 seconds.
Coming back.
Getting ready, hungry for lunch. Welcome back. Get a few more of our friends. Three seconds and they're all gonna zoom right back in. Here they come. Okay, as we have our final return to the main room, this time, I know this is a lot, right? Again, I told you at the beginning, this is dipping a toe, don't be overwhelmed. Can we get just one example maybe of something you discussed that you might be able to implement that came out of this last little discussion? Just one volunteer. I want to talk about course policies before we go. Learning products.
I can volunteer. Something that
Yes.
Katie and I chatted about was that we should pay attention. We should certainly pay more attention to marginalized holidays and even make that more public with our students. But then, I admitted that I don't really pay attention to any holidays outside of when there are actual days off from the institution, and using that kind of schedule to help me navigate like deadlines or what have you. And so that was something that we discussed, in addition to sort of continuing conversation from the chat before we left off.
Right. And actually, thank you, Dana. A couple people, so yourself and Adam and maybe a couple other people had a couple questions about that intersections project. So I just typed up an answer and I just hit enter. So that's there if you want to check that out. Okay, fabulous. Thank you for that. What I want to do, because we only have 7 minutes. Can you believe that? I thought we were going to run out of time. I thought we were going to be way ahead of schedule. I want to show you a couple of things about the policy section of a syllabus, because I hinted earlier that we often think of this as neutral, right? Policy is a policy. I use it the same for everybody. It turns out we don't use it the same for everybody necessarily, but also the way it gets interpreted by each student may not be the same. But I wanted just to show you a couple before and afters. We're not going to do a breakout, obviously, on this, but of an ADA policy and an inclusive syllabus statement policy. So a lot of people have, probably everybody has, some sort of statement in their syllabus about accommodations, or maybe there's an office on campus that supports students in terms of if they need extra time on exams, or if they have accommodations for a learning disability of any sort, or whatever it may be. And sometimes the syllabus statement we use to talk about that is very legal. Like if you look at the one on the screen, right? Like there's this law and we don't want to get in trouble, so I have to put this in my syllabus, right? So, okay. So we want to think about that a little more complexly than just sort of like there's a law and we don't want to violate the law, which sends a particular kind of signal. So I pulled an example that goes a different route. And basically it's really expressing the instructor's values around supporting students who at any time in the course are facing any challenge associated with, they list a lot of things, mental or physical disabilities, illness, impairments, injuries, other conditions that might cause you not to have equal access to education. And then they go through and talk about how they're going to approach that. If you find yourself not able to fully access this space or content, right? You don't have to contact me, but you may, right? It's never too late to ask. Okay, so it has a different feel. It's not just pointing back to a legal obligation, okay? So think about the difference between those. This before policy is actually one that was written with the intention of being very inclusive, right? And this one came together after a particular presidential election for about 4 or 5 years ago, and was put in everybody's syllabus. And it is, we're grateful for your presence, input, regardless of any of these things. I have a problem with the phrase regardless of, because it sounds like, we're tolerating you, even though maybe, you have some diversity along these various social locations. So it can be improved in many ways. There's, the intention behind it is good, but that can also still be problematic, right? And so I just wanted to mention, especially for people who are thinking about like, how does inclusive practice apply to science or STEM type courses? I'm not going to be talking about, the latest social issues and having those kinds of conversations, but this is a really good example from one of my colleagues at VCU that I thought was nice to share. So talking about her own dedication to principles of universal design and how she values that in terms of how it's improved her teaching, right? Learning for everyone. And then she names, sort of the disciplines and her own particular discipline, not always valuing diversity of perspectives. So going back to that key that we are going to critique our own discipline, and we're going to invite students to do that with us. So historically, much of science and engineering was built on a subset of privileged voices. So she's really naming that, right? That's a different kind of policy to have than sort of like, you're all welcome regardless of your background, which is a start, but this goes a little bit more specific into that. Okay. So I will, that's all I had about that. I just want to let you know about some resources. I'll put the links in the chat, but we can use the whole 3 minutes we have left if there's any final thoughts or comments, or Emily, if there's anything you want to mention that's coming up that you want to cover. And as I'm putting these in the chat, I have some books, but you don't have to buy them, okay? I don't get hardly any money from that. Just get it from a library. But there's also, like I said, free resources for assignments and things like that available on the website. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll get lots of free stuff. I have a podcast out about whiteness if you want to learn more about the psychology of whiteness. So there's lots to explore, but I'll stop sharing that so we can use our last 3 minutes however you want.
So Kim, this has been really wonderful. I would say we can use our 3 minutes for questions, and just a reminder, yoga or lunch, and then coming back at 1:30, I think it is, for breakout rooms, but I'll share my screen, but use the time to ask him questions.
Or share ideas. I mean, I'm sure you all have things to add to this. And by the way, with the syllabus challenge, it's a document, a living document. So if you do share it with people and you're free to, please give them the link. And if you see things in the syllabus challenge that are starting to look outdated, or you think, oh, there's a whole thing we haven't even talked about in there, I'm more than happy to get that feedback as well. It's just an ongoing process. Okay. I've exhausted them, Emily. I'm pretty sure. Oh no. Okay, here we go, chat. Here we go.
There it goes.
That's what happens when my chat window hides from me. Okay. How do innovate creative learning products when our departments require the big paper? Okay. So navigating sort of departmental or institution like agreed upon requirements, and then having your own pedagogical flexibility. That is a really good question for you all to talk about. If you have flexibility in other portions of the course, perhaps some other portion of the course you could convert into that. That's one possibility. Or if you want to work at the department level to say, maybe you all could move to an option of, formal big paper, or student choice and student voice and student agency is a huge way to be inclusive, or some agreed upon parameters around a final project that you can have a little more wiggle room. But that would be a department conversation, obviously, too. Okay. Emily, okay. I'm just learning about labor-based grading. I'm wondering if there is a more equitable grading practice. Okay, so I know not a ton about the following things: specs grading, contract grading, and ungrading, but I'm super interested in them. And ungrading has my attention, and contract grading have my attention, because I had a colleague, I actually had her picture up earlier, Desi, in Houston, who did ungrading the last 2 semesters, and she doesn't give any grades. She just has conversations with the students about how they're doing, what's their progress, and at the end, they talk to her about what grade they think they earned. Oh my gosh. And they were so much more invested and not being so caught up. And then first they're very nervous, obviously, but there's a ton of great literature out there about this. And I think more based on 2020 to now, more faculty have started to try these techniques. And so I think there's gonna be more scholarship coming out about it as well. But it sounds like yours might be even that you could do gamification for labor-based. If it's sort of like you get this many points if you complete these things, you can choose from this group and you get that point credit, you know, gamification stuff is really fun too. Okay. Raffles are important.
That's right. Right. That was my comment.
Okay.
All right. Kim, thank you. This has been really wonderful. And I hope I speak for everybody that we're all looking forward to putting into practice some of your suggestions.
Don't feel overwhelmed, you guys, really. This is like, I mean, let me rephrase, y'all, not you guys. It's a lot, and not everything's even in this, right? This is not an exhaustive document by any means. And thank you also to the students for being here and for your ideas and the things you brought up too. That was really helpful. The more we can incorporate your ideas into designing things, I think we'll just get more innovative, and we'll hopefully more student perspective would mean more student engagement in the coursework that we're doing.
Exactly. It's wonderful. So I hope for anybody who is planning to stick around, and Kim, you are welcome to spend the day with us or not. We're using the same Zoom link all day. So if you want to stay for yoga, feel free. If you want to stay and have lunch, feel free, watch yoga. But we'll be back in the same Zoom link for 1 o'clock and 2:30. And I hope.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you all.
And I'll be here hanging out. Not doing yoga in my office today. Hank's doing yoga in his office, I think.
I'm not sure if I can do.
Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen on that one. Yep. So Jen, we're going to turn it over to you. It looks like you have 40 people to do yoga, or not, as they quickly log out.
All right.
Same Zoom link for the whole day.
Can I take my mask off?
Yes.
It's okay. I think I'll be fine. Yeah.
All right. Have fun.
See if you have any takers, couple of takers.
Yeah. Can you guys hear okay?
And I'm
yes. I just have to run and get my yoga mat. I'll be right back.
Fine.
All right, I'm going to shut my video and my sound. I'm going to actually eat lunch. Jen, thank you for practicing yoga with the group. And Mary, so we have experts in the room.
Awesome. So people who are getting ready, if you happen to have any actual yoga block or anything that's kind of the shape, like a hard, firm pillow or a book or something, that could be helpful. And I'm excited to teach in this giant room. If you've taken my class before, you see my much smaller place at home. So this is better.
So what props are you using? Anything?
Just if you have a block or two or something shaped like that, I see you have blocks. That's good. That's all you need.
Okay.
And I will plan to finish at 12:45 so everyone can grab a little something to eat before the 1 p.m. session starts, myself included. Unfortunately, I missed the morning session. I was teaching lab, so